The reason I got involved with high-speed rail is I have a land use background. I've done land use in California for 30 years. I got my land use ethics, if you will, working with the U.S. Forest Service for 10 years. So I've done countless EIR hearings. I've worked with various different communities, their papers, different places in California. And all that applies to what I'm trying to do here with high-speed rail, and then also what the community needs to be doing in terms of not only high-speed rail, but its other land use situations that come up on a pretty regular basis. So it's a very big land use proposal, one that will affect this city, and I'd like to see that it happens on a positive, cost-effective basis so that it can be done without undue financial stress, so that it can be done without isolating neighborhoods more than they are right now. I'm an advocate of good transportation and of good land use, but also of safety for the community and also for fiscal responsibility. I don't see that we should be involved in a long-term capital project that's going to break the bank. We have a transportation system right now, but it's not very good. So that's my interest, is trying to improve it.
I'm wondering if you could critique Palo Alto's land use planning processes and the general plan, and just what would you like to see changed about those plans or processes if you were elected?
Well, I see a lot of positives and some negatives. I'd say more positives than negatives. I don't think it's fair to the public to have a short development permit process that's not responsive to public input, but on the other hand, I don't think that the process should be extended for multiple years, going on and on, where it ends up being an endurance contest. So to me, those are the two extremes to avoid, and I would like to work with the planning department, residents, city manager, and the council to find basically the middle where we can deal with proposals. The public can participate. The permit advocate or the developer will have some idea of the process that they're getting into and the cost of that process.
Did you address the PC zone and what your thoughts are about that?
To me, it should be one tool within the comprehensive plan that can be used, but shouldn't just automatically be used by applicants. To me, the amendment, which I believe is scheduled for March of next year for the comprehensive plan, that really, I think, should examine this process, the PC process, to hopefully trim it back so there's no real tools that show what a developer can do. It's all up to negotiation. I think that's really very behind the times. I think a good land use plan is essential so that can be held up as public policy. People know what to expect. It can be amended, as any good plan should be amended through the public process. But negotiating at the microphone in front of the council, I think, is dangerous business. And I'm not an advocate of that. I think that leads to poor planning. It's poor utilization of staff resources. We've got staff members that I believe are doing a good job in terms of trying to come up with the right recommendations relative to all the different input here in the city. And then sometimes their recommendations are either modified or changed, at midnight microphone negotiations, as I call it.
But I wonder if you have some comments to make, positive and negative, about the way this city council works, and any of the decisions that they've made over the last few years jump out at you as ones that you regret and that you would have liked to have had some impact on?
Well, the decisions that have resulted in revenue loss, I think, are ones that need to be re-examined. Obviously, the redevelopment of the former Hyatt property, to me, is the big one in terms of revenue that was lost. Jack Morton told me that the city was getting around $1.35 million in revenue annually from Hyatt, and that now with the redevelopment and the private residences, it's more like $130,000. So it's a tenfold drop by his numbers in terms of city revenue. And then those residents that live there, they require city services. So it takes it actually into a negative. That to me is a poor decision in terms of the future financial health of the city. And I realize there's a lot of reasons why it went that direction, but I think it was a big mistake for the city to approve a project that takes that much money out of the revenue stream, where we've known for some time that we're either in a deficit or going to be in a deficit. So that's just one that stands out to me.
Increasing kind of drumbeat of concern about the cost of city employees and pensions. And
right.
Sort of, if you could address that and whether you think that's a real problem, or is it an issue that requires some fundamental rethinking of the way we do business here in Palo Alto, or not?
I think that, assumed 4 to 6% increase with related benefits, that can't be an assumption. We've taken a dive in the last year, 2 years. I don't believe that the employees really need to be kept on, let's say, an advancing scale. So I think a new model is necessary. A new plan that's a transitional plan is necessary. I don't think the city is being capricious. I think all these things are being very well considered and discussed, and it will be a compromise. It's not going to be a hard and fast new policy that's a draconian 25% cut. That's not going to happen. But a transitional change to something that is financially feasible and sustainable, I think is important here. I think the attrition of staff resources over time needs to be utilized so that we don't continue at 1,000+ employees. I think some of the businesses that have left Palo Alto, we probably can't bring them back, but we might be able to bring new businesses to Palo Alto. I'm very proud that Palo Alto is an employment center. I think that's something that we still need to put out there as a high priority, is to attract new businesses as various economic cycles come and go. We should be there recruiting new businesses to replace ones that, because of an old cycle, they had to leave for whatever reasons.
What about Measure A?
I'm supporting it. I think it's reasonable. I don't think it's that punitive. It's not the answer by any means. Like I said, there has to be other revenue sources that can be brought in and established in order to have a sustainable budget. So Measure A, to me, is I guess what I'll call a reasonable price of doing business here.
There's some way that we can guarantee that people are getting staff reports out more than 3 days before a council meeting on major issues.
Yeah.
And
again, I've seen the California Coastal Commission have staff reports certainly 10 days, probably 2 weeks, I think, before permit hearings, and that's been going on there, for many years. Why it can't happen here? I think I know. So I agree with you. I think that's really, it's not the transparent way of operating city government. If you have last-minute staff reports that might produce last-minute decisions on policy or on financial matters, then to me the public gets shortchanged. It's real simple. To me, it's related to good policy. To me, good policy is like good soup. It's much better over a period of time rather than having it being rushed and then all of a sudden realize you've got the wrong ingredients.
You're currently self-employed?
Yeah.
And how long have you been self-employed?
Since 2008, mid-2008.
Okay.
And prior to that, I'd worked for 2 nonprofits, primarily the Big Sur Land Trust and the Sempervirens Fund.
Right.
So I've done nonprofit land conservation work basically my whole career.